Good morning, Chaver. Good morning, Rabbi Asei. Again, I wanna welcome everybody here. It's exciting to be here. This morning I got to see Shlomo. Where's Shlomo? Shlomo arrived, Baruch Hashem. We're ready to go. We're all coming from different places. I say that we're coming from different places in the literal sense, and not the literal sense. It's coming from different stages. It's a big part of Sulam. Is people coming from all different places coming together. I'm a shtickle coming. My wife and I last week had the schus of going to Dvarim of Tzadikim, to travel and to visit Kivrei Tzadikim. And so that's where I'm coming almost the whole last week. My wife and I came back Erev Shabbos Kalish, so we're coming direct, like straight from there. So I wanna share something. I don't want to give like a tutorial how to go to a Kivrei Tzadikim. Each person, I do tend to think, let go of it. People come very tight. Typically people going to a kever, they're coming to daven. So they come holding on to something. I'm coming to daven, and then they daven. You forget to meet a tzaddik. You forget to be at the experience. You come so prepared. If you come to anything like that, you get very stuck. If you come there, even you come to a shir like that, sort of like a jet, you come to learning like that, let things go. Let's see. Let me experience a little bit. So to cover a little bit, the part of the art, of course, it's normal. You're not coming from all different places. And typically, a yid coming to the kever is coming to daven, to the Rabbi Shalom. That's, of course, the tefillas to Hashem. It's fascinating, such an unusual thing that a grave is where people are buried. It's such an interesting thing that Yidden daven there. Very interesting. I'm talking to Hashem there. Hashem's everywhere. Why am I going to a kever to daven, to pray? That's very, very interesting that I'm going there. It's true the schos of the tzaddik helps. It's true we can even ask the tzaddik to be a melitz, to speak to Hashem. Of course, we're all focused on davening to Hashem. Well, welcome to the Chasna Kalam. So of course, so we go there. Neshama stays. And Neshama is not nifter. Neshama stays. Neshama goes to Abba, and the Neshama gets schar. Eventually, even comes back. And the main gemol, the main schar is the Neshama comes back with the body because they served Hashem zusammen together, and that's the main schar is the Neshama with the body. But the Neshama, Mamash, Shadoras, the Neshama, us, we stay and we go to Olam Abba. And Yidden go to the tzaddik. They go to the tzaddik and they pray to the Rebbeinu Shalom. And they ask the tzaddik to be a melitz, to intercede, to speak to Hashem on our behalf. When my wife and I went to Poland, it was very important to us that we wanted to go to the Sfas Emes. And the Sfas Emes is, not he was a tzaddik, he is a Sfas Emes. The neshama of the Sfas Emes, very precious neshama. The Chayza of Lublin used to thank Hashem. Reportedly he said it every day. I read it in reliable place. How often the Chayza used to thank Hashem for the neshama of the Bardetchever. Reb Levi Yitzchak made a big impact. Was a rebbe of the Chayza before he went to learn by the Naim Melech, and he would thank Hashem for his friend. But I say thanks for the neshama. He was thanking for the Bardetch, but he would thank Hashem. Like we thank. I thank Hashem. I see Shloima. I thank Hashem. Such a person, such a friend. I'm thankful for such a friend. The Noimli Melech, the Chayzer would thank Hashem for his friend. Say you put such an neshama in the world, such a person, such a person who impacted, who elevated his neshama, elevated my neshama. Mamish was an elevation to be around him. He would thank Hashem for the Raditcher. It was important to my mishpacha and I. This Sfas Emes has impacted my family. My children were Zeicha. I want to thank. They were Zeicha to meet a Rebbe. Yaakov went to Eretz Yisrael, Menachem went there, so Moshe went to Eretz Yisrael, and they found a Rebbe who they connected to, who elevated my children, and in turn my whole mishpacha, who taught Torah and just elevated my children, and we're thankful to Rabbi Geisler, Shlita, we're thankful, very, very, to say we're appreciative, and doesn't do it the right justice. We're extremely appreciative. This one of the specific svarim that impacted my children a lot was the Sfas Emes, his Torah, his teachings. It's interesting, even just how to learn the Sefer teaches you about life. I have seen people learn Sfas Emes detached. You can't learn the Sefer detached. The way it's written forces you to tell a story. And I've seen people learn it from a very detached way, and I could tell they're not understanding Sfas Emes. You could say, well, he asked, but anybody reading the Sefer, he's saying things that you have to connect to and relate to and talk about. I'm going to share something in a few minutes from this Sfas Emes. To learn his Sefer, you are forced, and this is how Torah is learned, you're forced to think about your own story. You're forced to analyze what's he bothered by, what's he talking about, what's he speaking about, what's he thinking about. In the last couple of years, I've been interested in the Svarim of the Barditchba and the Noimli Melech. You can't learn it dry and like you read some textbook. What's he busy with? What world is he seeing? What's he trying to communicate? It's just evident in learning these Svarim that these tzaddikim are saying things that you have to work. Now, why can't they write it all out is a good question. Why not just write it all out and say the whole story is a very good question. It's almost so frustrating that I have to connect so deeply to this. And I have to look inside myself, why would they do that? I guess that question is sort of funny because when you go through the experience, it's obvious why it's done, and that's the derech of Torah, and it's teaching us how to always learn Torah. And the Sefer Sfas Emes, to study, it's written, people quote like a Rishon, it's written so brief and so obvious that there's tremendous work to do to understand where he's taking us, what he's saying, what he's trying to say. So this Sefer Sfas Emes is a Sefer that Rebbe was introduced to my children. My children get a lot from it, and I have tried to grab on and try to, both by listening to shiurim from Rebbe and by learning the Torah, I've tried to grab on to the Sefer Sfas Emes and to see what he's saying and to try to learn it. We were Zeicha, the first place to go to in Poland was to the kever of the Sfas Emes. The Chdush Yerim, I say only Sfas Emes before the Chdush Yerim. Chdush Yerim was his grandfather. He raised the Sfas Emes. I don't want to be chutzpah. The Chdush Yerim is bigger. He's the Zayda. He raised the Sfas Emes. I'm saying that's the one I learned the Svarim of the Sfas Emes. Of course, he got it and quotes his Zayda, the Chdush Yerim, and what he got, he was raised by the Chdush Yerim. So we went to the kever of the Chdush Yerim and the Sfas Emes. And I wanted to express appreciation to the Sfas Emes. I wanted to thank the Rebbeinu Shalom that he gave us, that he gives Am Yisrael the Sfas Emes. I wanted to meet, I wanted to speak and think about and meet and be in touch as a Yid called the Sfas Emes, who brought something to the world, who handed something to it's very evident our generation handed a Torah, and I wanted to meet and be there and be present to a Yid who had a massive impact on our Dor. I want to share with the Chevra one piece of Sfas Emes before we came here to hear from Rebbe, but Ein Mesarvin L'Gadol, and Rebbe asked that I say something first, so I'm going to do it. I wanted to share a thought from the Sfas Emes. Derech Efshar, on this week's parasha, so he says a very cryptic statement from Rabbanim. And I want to think about it a little bit. We know B'nai Gad, B'nai Ruvain choose Ever HaYarden. The Psukim say Mekna Rab. They have a lot of cattle, and Ever HaYarden was a good place for people. It was lush land, and for people wealth. It was just a good place for commerce. It was a good place for these wealthy two Shvatim. They had Mekna Rav, and it's a good place for them. Comes the Psukim in Dvarim, in Zayis HaBracha, and say a very different reason why B'nai Gad and B'nai Ruvain wanted Ever HaYarden. The Psukim say they were rich, Mekna Rav, and they wanted a place for their cattle. It was a good place for their Ashiras, for these two wealthy Shvatim. But the Psukim in Zayis HaBracha tell us a very different reason why they wanted Ever HaYarden. They knew, all of Klal Yisrael knew that Moshe Rabbeinu was not entering Eretz Yisrael. And that Rebbe Moshe Rabbeinu, who they were talking to, they wanted to be near that Rebbe. They didn't want to part from their Rebbe. And Chelkas Mechaykik, Safam there, Moshe Rabbeinu, Mechaykik, says Rashi, said Moshe Rabbeinu is going to be buried. Moshe staying here, we're staying here. That's what B'nai Gad and B'nai Ruvain was saying. You're staying here, Moshe, we're not leaving you, Rebbe. We're not leaving you, Rebbe. You're here, we're here, we're not leaving you. And that's what the Psukim in Zayis HaBracha say, that there, that they, they chose the first land that they bumped into, because the Chelkas Mechaykik, that was the Chelak of the Mechaykik, of the one who gave us Chukim, the one who was, through Moshe Rabbeinu, taught us Torah. Safon, there he's buried. Therefore they said, we want to be near Moshe Rabbeinu. We're not leaving you, Moshe. You're staying here, we're staying here. And that's what B'nai Gad and B'nai Ruvain were saying. That's why they were buried here. So you have Psukim in Mattais Asei that say they wanted to stay in Ever HaYarden. They were wealthy. They had a lot of cattle. It's better for commerce. And you have Psukim in Zayis HaBracha that say, Rebbe, you're staying here, we're staying here. We're not parting from you, Rebbe. You're here, we're here. L'chayre, it's like a stira. It's a shtickle stira. The Psukim says, why did they stay there? Why did they stay there? Right? Silverman and Maishi and I, we were all talking together about when people give 3 reasons, you know it's a 4th reason. Whenever somebody gives you 3 reasons for something, they haven't given you the reason. It's always a 4th. When you have 3 reasons yourself, it's usually a 4th reason. You're like the 2 reasons we're here. What's happening here? We're here, we have a lot of cattle. I hear that it's a good place for Ashiras. And we're here, Rebbe's staying here. Here you're buried, Moshe, we're not leaving you, Rebbe. It's 2 different reasons. Now, every question is energy and brings us place. It is interesting to tell what they could tell the Rebbe. I picture this conversation with the Rebbe. They're not talking about Moshe's Einish not going to Eretz Yisrael. It would be, I could hear reasons why they wouldn't give the real reason when they spoke to Moshe. Rebbe, it's also an awkward thing. Rebbe, you're going to be buried here. There's like a fun. Still needs a pshat that they said in this week's parasha. They said to Moshe, we have Mikneh Rav. That's why we want to be buried here. That's why we want to stay here. And what they don't say, what the Torah is made in Parashat Zayis HaBracha, is Moshe Rabbeinu, you're here, we're not leaving you, Rebbe. We're not parting from you, Rebbe. I want to get to this sugya. I was zeicha a number of years ago. I was speaking to Rabbi Yisrael Zatzal, this tzaddik. I called him with a shayla. The bacher had a shayla. I don't even remember the shayla. I was asking for a guy, but it had to do with friends and a rebbe. I don't remember the shayla. friends, I don't remember what the guy asked, but I remember where I was standing when Reb Gissinger told me this. It was yours, it was for you, Maish? So what was the Shaila, Maish? Thank you, I'm sorry I don't remember the Shaila I asked, but what was the Shaila, Maish? You don't have to say it. I have to do it with sifters. You're right. I'm sorry, Maish. Okay, now I remember why I'm forgetting. Okay.
It worked out, it worked out. It turned out good.
Okay. Yeah. The brain is amazing. When you forget, you have to remember why you forgot things. Yeah, good. So Moshe and I were calling him to ask him a shayla, and he told me something fascinating. When his Rebbe was retiring, Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, who he had an incredible kesher nafshi, a deep kesher to his Rebbe, a beautiful relationship to his Rebbe, and his Rebbe was leaving Torah V'das and moving to Monsey. And Reb Gissinger's whole chevra, their Rebbe was leaving Torah V'das, so they all went to Lakewood Yeshiva. A lot of tzaddikim. Reb Yankov's closest talmidim, their Rebbe was retiring, so they went to Lakewood, they switched to Lakewood. He told me that I couldn't leave Rebbe. I couldn't leave my Rebbe. It wasn't shaykh. He told me I couldn't. Wasn't happening. He enrolled in a yeshiva in Monsey that had no shaykhs to him. He said, I wasn't like Keya Shaykh. I'm not leaving my Rebbe. He enrolled. He mamish enrolled in a yeshiva in Monsey that was right near Reb Yankov, where Reb Yankov was moving. He said, I can't, he told me. And so I moved right next, I enrolled in the yeshiva. Reb Yaakov got wind of what happened and called in Reb Gissinger, called in Reb Shlomo. And he said to him, where are you going to yeshiva? He said, I enrolled in such and such a yeshiva near Rebbe. So he said, no. He brought the Gemara Makas, and he said, friends are more important at your stage now. He said, we have a kesher. You have to be with your friends. And he was mitzavah. He commanded him, stark, that you have to go to Lakewood. He told me the rest of my life, I was in Lakewood. He said, other people go learn there. My Rebbe sent me here. He said, I spent the rest of my life there. I was sent by my Rebbe. That's where I stayed the rest of his life. He was mashpia and impacted. His Rebbe sent him there. But he sent him interest. He said, go with your chaver. Your chaver, mavir, that's where you should go. He was giving us aids. So here, what's the truth about the obviously the Torah says both, so both are true. There seems to be two stories here: a story of Mikna Rab, of a lot of cattle, and a story of wanting to be buried near their Rebbe Moshe. The Sfas Emes brings a cryptic memra, short statement. I say cryptic, he's not trying to be cryptic. He says a memra from his Rebbe, from the Chdush Yarim's Rebbe, Rabbonim of Shisma, and he says a memra that only makes things like a little more confusing. It sounds like two different reasons, but Rabbonim said Mikna Rav, a lot of cattle, is Mikna Rav is a kinyan in the Rebbe. Mikna Rav, a kinyan in the Rebbe. So when it says they had Mikna Rav, they had a kinyan in their Rebbe. They had like this interesting lashon, a kinyan in their Rebbe. A Mikna Rav, a mamish, this profound connection to their Rebbe. And that's weiter. So Mikna Rav, it's not two stories. Now it begs the question still. You read the Psukim, and Rabbonim learn Torah. And you read the Psukim, it talks about cattle and wealth. Yet Hashem says Mikna Rav, it was a kinyan in their Rebbe. It was a kinyan in their Rebbe. So what's happening, these two sugyas of this big Ashiris, they want to live there, and they want to be near their Rebbe. They want to be near their Rebbe. Now, again, like every question, like every mystery, when we think and we study and we learn, it brings us places. And I don't have an answer. I don't know. You're not going to get the answer to the mystery. I don't know. And I'm curious about it. And Rabbonim just adds to the intrigue It's not just two reasons. The sugi of having a lot of wealth was mikna rav, was a kinyan in their Rebbe, was mamish a kinyan in their Rebbe. I want to say a couple of things that this journey that brings me on hearing these psukim and hearing this memra. The Sfasem has taught me, and he's saying something to me. Mikna Rav, a lot of cattle, Kenyan in their Rebbe. What's happening? They're rich. A king, their Rebbe. One hints at the other. Hashem's the Ein Sai. Hashem's the best artist in the world. The rights, mamish exact. I want them to know a lot of cattle, Kenyan in their Rebbe. Hashem said, I'm like so confused. So before we go anywhere, just I always like approach simple. So the first thing is psukim in the Torah. Light is very wealthy, also had mikna rav, and the Torah is made that Rashi that the ashiras that he had was from Nigaram, was from the connection to Avram. And this is just the truth that tzaddikim bring the shefa bracha to the world. That's the truth. Hashem sends shefa through tzaddikim. That's passion. You didn't go to tzaddikim. Why are we running to tzaddikim to daven if there's a chayla? We run to tzaddikim for parnasa. People run for a bracha from a tzaddik. Tzaddikim, Hashem sends shefa through a tzaddik. That's like a passion on haga of the world. That's dvarim shutim. From the tzaddik comes the shefa bracha. Light is around Avram and he becomes rich. That's like passion. That's like it's not a chiddush. It's not. Somebody was like quoting a lot of history, how different tzaddikim, they had connection to the government to help their chevra get rich. It was like the Rebbe's chap. The guy was like bringing history things. I couldn't listen so much. It was hard for me. There's a shefa bracha from the tzaddik. He's missing it. Sometimes people can miss the story. In seeing the guf, you can miss the neshama. That's the story of this world. You see bodies, you forget the soul. That's oil mazeh. And our job is to see in the guf, is to see the neshama. The guf b'li neshama is not. There's a neshama. Mamish has a neshama. So the hope to go to the kever is to only think about the neshama. That's why they go there. That's the place. That's the neshama. Mamish. That's the place. But the guf b'li neshama. The tzaddik he's talking about, like the tzaddik's chap politically. That's not the story. Tzaddikim, through tzaddikim, a shefa bracha comes. That's dvarim pshutim, how it works. That's psukim in the Torah. You learn chumash with a child. Max, please. I'm so happy to see you. You're still very smart?
I hope so. Thinking how poetic it is for the way that it's phrased. Make sure they don't understand what it's like to be a shepherd who was a shepherd. So with the wordplay of both my Rebbe, I want to have a king in my Rebbe, and the fact that we have cattle, it's something to understand that she were a shepherd back in the day. So yeah, if you want to take it before you had them go together, if you want to, let's say, I go through a lie, truth, whatever it was that they were doing, the same question, you don't want to talk about the dying here, which is not what needs to be here, because we have cattle. So you know that's like we're a shepherd. I'm connecting with Gary when he was there earlier. He was a shepherd back in the day. He's a shepherd, he just stands with the cattle. Makes sense. But with it, I just think it's so important how that's done in multiple ways.
I'm going to say the same words, but now not as a question. Max, you're still smart. I like what you're doing. I can elaborate on what you're saying, and we should. But what you do, I like when we read Torah, we have to think, and that's what the Sfasem brings us to. You can't learn his sefer if you're. It's like annoying. Only one person just write me everything you're saying. That's not what Torah is. That's not what Limanat Torah is. That's not. You're forced to connect to Torah. So I like what you're doing and visualizing and picturing. That's what we got to do. So there's a fact, Max, that a person, that's a fact, Martha, that a person's near tzaddik. When I say it's a fact, it's Chazal. Mi garam the ashiras of light being the Avram Avinu. So when it speaks about the Mikna Rav and Kinyan in the Rebbe, it's that what caused the Mikna Ravs, the Kinyan in the Rebbe. They're Atzlacha, they were close to Moshe. That's how Hashem works in this world, through a connection to tzaddikim. There's a shefa, a bracha. That's like obvious. It's not a chiddush. By the way, we're sitting all here. We're connected to somebody who has shefa and shares the shefa and Hashem through tzaddikim. It's like Dvarim Pshutim through tzaddikim. Hashem gives shefa to the world. That's like an obvious piece. The Noam Elimelech has many pieces like this. He says about Pinchas, the bris shalom is through the tzaddik's mikasha to Olam Haba, to the Olam Ha'emes, the world, and from there comes a shefa, a bracha to people. There's like obvious stuff. So that's one place that we're just led to understand. But there has to be more here. That's a truth. But it's still not enough. There's a truth that they had Mikna Rav because of the Kesher to the Rebbe, but still they're staying here because of their cattle. There's something more being said. It doesn't answer everything. If they have it because of the Kesher to the Rebbe, welcome, Rav. Welcome. If they have cattle because of the kesher to their Rebbe, still, and that's a truth, and it does make sense. The Kinyan and the Rebbe and cattle, one's goyim the other, but the reason to stay here because of their cattle, and the reason to stay here to be with Moshe, that won't explain, even if it came from Moshe. There's still two reasons why you're here. It's not mitaretz in full the question, though the truth of the statement is still true. So I want to suggest, and again, I don't know the answer. I don't know the mystery. It's a mysterious question in the Torah. But by way of Rabbanim, who showed me Mikna Rav, the money is a Kinyan in the Rebbe, I want to say that it's a crazy chiddush what Bnei Gad and Bnei Ruvain did. We're told to go to Eretz Yisrael. Go to Eretz Yisrael. They say we have a lot of cattle. It's chiddush nifla. Because of money, you're clearing money. You're serious? These are the Shivkei Kadi, that's Tzaddikim. These are Yidden, big people. And the sugya of money is a big sugya, is a big sugya, the sugya of physical things. I'm growing, Baruch Hashem, little by little. Money is great. Money is a big thing. Money is very special. Really a special thing, money. Dollars are big things. You can manage buy a soda for $1. It's crazy stuff. And you make a bracha. What'd you say? Okay, $1.50. But money's a big thing, and it's very shayach. It's very shayach that the Kinyan and the Rebbe is what made them be mashad what they have. That it's not a side thing. The Mikna Rav, the Kinyan and the Rebbe, is what made them appreciate and value the gifts they had. But they got it, Bnei Ruvain were right. People get confused. They talk about a chet. They were too into money. There's chazal like that, and there's an einish and a danger always. The teaching of the Torah, Hashem doesn't say this as a chet. The Torah and the pashtus of the pasuk is this is what they were supposed to do. Moshe Rabbeinu was masking to them. They stayed Never Yardin. It wasn't a b'diavad. So where they come to understand what they have, what their mission, where they are is like precious. That was Mikna Rav. That was the Kinyan and the Rebbe. This wasn't a side thing, their possessions. It wasn't like there's something. Anybody who knows about the tzaddikim, when you learn about the Sfas Emes and you meet the Sfas Emes, I was very interested in the whole kehillah and the setup of the kehillah, where he was. A lot of his chassidim didn't live near him. I met the Sfas Emes last week. So interesting. The tzaddik didn't have a lot of his chassidim. The main places they lived, there was 70 Gerish people who weren't near him. Hey, why didn't they live near the Rebbe? Because they were engaged in commerce. They were in a place where he lived was a very small shtetl. It was hard for business. You could go there, you can go see if you want. I'm reporting to you, I'm just telling what I saw. He lives a very small gegen. It's like a very small shtetl. And his chassidim were earning parnasa. And the world of the Rebbe gave chashivas, everybody counted. That's the world of the tzaddik. Each person had meaning in what they didn't move to him. They were Isaac and Parnas and different things that they were supposed to be Isaac. And Fakir, from his teaching, from the tzaddik, each one understands his tafkid as incredibly meaningful and important and valuable and precious. What Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuben are remarkable people. We learn the story, we learn the story young and don't rethink it. Rabbanim's challenging me to rethink it. I thought, like I learned as a little kid, they had a lot of cattle and they somehow capped out. Look, it's not the story. Who told? I learned Rabbanim. Rabbanim said that their cattle and their staying there was a Kenyan in their Rebbe. They mamish got it. Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven are remarkable people. It's a pella. They're a pella. They said, this is for us. The pella, the rest of Klal Yisrael's traveling on. They're tzaddikim, gedolim, goyinim. We study Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven. My life's different now. I never happened. Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven are a remarkable lesson. I don't know, move where everybody's going. Go where everybody goes. You have a lot of cattle, Schechter cattle. I don't throw it in the garbage, your cattle. Everybody's going there. No. There's a place for us, a place for me, in Avodah for me. And Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven, two giants, Shvatim, live in Ever HaYarden because that's for me. That's where I'm supposed to serve Hashem. That's a Kenyan in their Rebbe. It's not Rebbonim Sushtel, it's not your weakness. He's saying that this Mikna Rab, this sugya of a lot of cattle, it could be this, I don't get it exact, I don't get exact. Somehow this was linked to the Kenyan in their Rebbe. This is mamish, the deepest place of being near Moshe Rabbeinu, of understanding Moshe Rabbeinu, understanding his teachings. I'm not sure exact. They wanted to be near him. I don't have it exact, but I see it in Rabbonim. It's not what I thought. I thought a lot of cattle was a distraction from their Rebbe. It was Gufa Kenyan in their Rebbe. They saw they have a tafkid. They saw they have a place. Now there could be later chatam, and everybody can know every truth. You can mess up and you can mix up. That's a sakana. But there's a right in front of our face is a crazy lesson here of two incredible shvatim. We miss it, ready to criticize, jump. Read the Torah, stop jumping. Read Rabbonim of Sheslo, who didn't learn the way we're learning. Mikna Rab, the Kenyan in their Rebbe, they saw a tafkid, a unique tafkid for them, and lived where they lived, and lived the way they lived, the profound kesher to Hashem that came from a Rebbe who understood, a Rebbe who saw different people with different tafkidim, with different places, with different missions, but everything fits into Avodas Hashem. Kol Masecha De'elu. Nothing's like Adam. See, I'm sorry. I'm just so happy you're here. You should speak. What do you mean?
I just wanted to say, I think it fits well. I heard Rabbi say in Shad that Asei is make for yourself greatness in God. Like appreciate that you're great. So I think that fits with Rabbi's Lord that we making it out means this Lord. Or kind of that even if my hobby is being outside right Israel and working in cattle, we're only able to do that. Let's say probably for push everything that they were kind of that mission.
You're forcing me to tell a story I didn't want to tell. That's what he says. I introduced too long. 11:30 the Rebbe started. I have to finish fast.
No, that's okay.
So I'll tell the story and then we'll hear from Rebbe. I've been attracted to the teachings of the Noam Elimelech. I've been attracted to what I see as the person, Noam Elimelech, the tzaddik. So I went out about 2-3 years ago, and I realized he has a sefer called Zettel Katan. The Zettel Katan is some advice he gave to his Talmidim. So I went to the store and I went to Muncie and I bought the Tzedakah. I then go home and I start reading the Sefer, and I was very, very frustrated. I felt like, here I'm like liking the Torah and feeling connected. And I read his advice. Can you imagine if a Rebbe gives advice to you and you're completely not shaykh to the advice, like no shaykh? It's like he doesn't know me. And when I read his advice, I felt like it's so high, such madregas. It's not from, it's a different world. I grappled with this for a couple of years, this like question. I want to express that I was zeicher to go to the kever of the Noam Melech, and I lost the question. I completely lost the question, completely. I went back a second time. I traveled a lot of hours to go back a second time. The tzaddik from his high place, and the tzaddik was big, was very, very carved to Hashem. A big person. From his place, he saw things in us that were big too. And it's true, there are areas in the tzaddik that a person loses their breath and has a sense, and we can't, I don't want to say we can't, we can't access that space in us so fast, but yet the tzaddik sees in us big things. And to go to Noam Melech, you experience that what the tzaddik gave over to Klal Yisrael, he saw bigness in a yid. From his space, and he said himself to Noam Melech, he was a tremendous Irish, but he said to people, you don't have to do the precious, I'm doing it. It's in you, and to access that, but do your thing, from where you're up to, and he saw the neshama in us, to Noam Melech. And the mikneh Rav, the Kenyan in your Rebbe, is to see in your stand, in your state, in your, what's he saying? The Asei Lecha Rav, and the Kenyan in the Rebbe. The Kenyan means that when you're a Kenyan, you own your, it's something that you see in yourself that you're very connected to the Rebbe. The Kenyan in the Rebbe. And the Kenyan in the Rebbe, B'nai Gad, B'nai Reuven, is what their cattle, what their things, they mamish serve Hashem. What their stuff, from their place, that's mamish a Kenyan in the Rebbe. The chap that where we are, who we are, we have tremendous kirvus Hashem, tremendous opportunity for Kiddush Shamayim, tremendous kirvus lies in a yid, a neshama that's very big. And from our place, from our cattle, from our things, we can serve Hashem. That's what I want to express, perhaps, what Rabbanim is saying. And I want to express that B'nai Gad, B'nai Reuven, it's a crazy parasha what's happening, that they live in Abraham. Just read the Torah, and a yid to live where he's supposed to live, and to do with his stuff, with his cattle, with his stuff. That's like the Tifus Kenyan in your Rebbe. The Kenyan, that's your mamish living near Moshe when you do that. Your mamish living near the Rebbe. That's what they're saying. We want to live near the Rebbe. Your mamish, when you take your kaiches and you find your kaiches and your in what you have, and from that place you serve Hashem. You mamish have a Kenyan in your Rebbe, and that's the mikneh Rav. They live where they have, where their avodah flourishes the most, where they can be themselves and express themselves and serve their avodah shalom in the beautiful way that's fitting for themselves. That's mamish a Kenyan in the Rebbe. That's mamish living. They're living right near the Rebbe. They're not budging from anything. That's what I want to express, perhaps, what I'm hearing. I want to give a Shabbat Hashem, to thank Hashem that was Zayich, that the Rebbe is here. I want to give us a bracha. We should have mikneh Rav, a Kenyan in the Rebbe, which means in our sugyas, in our stuff, to find our own way that it works for us. So I thank Rebbe for being here. And after that long-winded, lengthy introduction, I ask Rebbe if he can share with us.
Okay, so basically I asked Rabbi to